Water. And joining me to have that discussion is Alice Kaudia, who is the Environment Secretary, Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources, State Department of Environment. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
And water, of course, is one of those that we have been told, and it is true, it's a basic need. And of course, then we need to have a discussion around that. So maybe you can start just by letting us know what is the current situation in regards to access to water for human consumption. And this is countrywide. I know water, especially in Nairobi, is a big issue in terms of access. But let's start, first of all, with the whole country.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, as you rightfully said, water is a basic need and is a basic right, according to our constitution, for everyone in Kenya. But Kenya, as a country, is a water-scarce country. And we do not have sufficient water in the right quantities and quality to serve the whole country. So we find that close to 50% of our country people have no access to quality, safe water for drinking in particular.
Close to 50%?
Close to that.
That's quite a huge number. And what would be the reason for that, given that, first of all, we are fairly blessed in terms of rainfall? It may not be as much as we want, especially for when it comes to agriculture, but one would imagine that we're fairly, we're not doing badly when it comes to the rainfall.
One of the reasons why, I think, geographically our country, 80% of our country is classified as arid and semi-arid. And we also suffer the negative impacts of climate change. That is making it very difficult for us to predict amount of water that we can get. The rainfall patterns have changed. And we also have a problem with actually managing the water resources, right from production and up to consumption level. And there's a lot being done to ensure that everyone has that access. It is in our Vision 2030. It's in all our development targets. And I'm sure with the time, as we target 2030, there are measures which are in place to ensure that every Kenyan, every person in this country has access to clean, safe, quality water in adequate quantities.
What are some of those challenges possibly that are stopping us from doing that? Because sometimes, thinking of it from a layman's perspective, let's take, for instance, we had the El Nino not too long ago, and that's a lot of water, which seems to go to waste. Maybe you could enlighten us on whether it actually goes to waste, or is it harnessed and possibly used elsewhere?
No water goes to waste, because as human beings, we depend on water, and livestock depend on water. The environment also needs water, because we have to recharge the underground resources, so that when we dig wells, when we sink boreholes, when we set up dams and so on, we have sufficient water recharged in the system. But there are efforts to ensure that during the rainy season, water is harvested. Allow me to focus at the household level. There's a lot of promotion of rainwater harvesting for household consumption. And that's because at the household level, that is where there's a huge impact on women. Culturally, traditionally, women are responsible for providing water, fetching water, and many of them spend many hours. Sometimes there's a case where I know of some women who go to the well as early as 3 a.m. in the morning and come back to the household by 10, midday.
And they would still be expected, of course, to still do the other duties that I expect.
Of course, they are expected to prepare the children to go to school, prepare the household to have breakfast and so on. So access to clean and safe water is really a major need, especially if we have to empower the women, because with such access within the household, they're able to save time, they're able to engage in other productive activities. Quality of health also improves. Their incomes also go up because they're able to invest that time in other productive activities.
Okay, now with the promulgation of the new constitution and having devolved governments, is that helping in any way, given that in this day and age, one would think that it's totally unacceptable for women to still be waking up as early as 3 a.m. to go and fetch water?
Yes, I think devolution has brought a good promise, and we just need to work on it, because with the devolved functions and activities, you find that there's a closer focus and there's a local lens to the whole issue of water, providing water. And therefore, you find that every county is doing its best to ensure that water as a right is met to all households and industries and so on. Yes.
And possibly you could let us know, because the other, apart from just consumption of water, water has a major role when it comes to sanitation.
Yes.
And possibly the impact that it has now on our sanitation.
Most of us in urban, when we look at sanitation, we have to, look at the scenario in the urban areas, in the rural areas. And when we come to rural areas, we need water a lot for basic hygiene, because most households depend on pit latrines. Many of them actually are just on open defecation. The landscape is completely polluted, and that also destroyed our water resources underground. So with sanitation, when I look at it with the lens of women in particular, they have a major role to play. Why? The women start socializing children from day one. They're the ones who will say, wash your hands after you visit the latrine or the toilet. Wipe your hand after you do this. So sanitation, basic hygiene is all a socialization process, and you find that women have a major role to play. And therefore, when we don't have quality sanitation in schools, in households, even in industries, it's a major setback for advancement of women.
And I know you are very passionate about women issues, the gender issues. And from what you're saying, are you alluding to the fact that the lack of proper water distribution for us has a bigger impact on women?
It has a proportionately bigger impact on women and girls. Let me also focus on the younger ones, the girls. And that is because, as I said before, whether in urban areas or rural areas, the responsibility of ensuring that there's water in a household is that of women. And I'm more focusing on households because I know industries is a bigger infrastructure, they have means of buying the water and so on. But when you look at the household consumption level, then the impact on women is a lot. And I would want to look at water provisioning as a value chain. Value chain meaning we look at it from the production to consumption end. And from that production end, I would take the lens of environment conservation. And we find that our landscapes are not well protected and well managed to ensure that we have quality water flowing into our rivers and other water bodies. And therefore, the lens of ensuring that we have quality water, safe water, should also be taken from the point of view of waste management. Because once we have poorly managed waste systems, the environment is so polluted, the water sources are so polluted. So however well it rains, however much it rains, whatever volumes we see flowing, if it is contaminated water, it is not good for consumption. It is useless water. So even what you are saying goes to waste. It may be wastewater going to waste.
Precisely.
Yes.
And that brings me to the next point here, because do you think there's enough done in terms of educating the populace on the importance of water conservation? For instance, you'll go to, let me use an urban setting, you might go to an estate and you find people literally washing their cars with running water. Whereas they could do that in an alternative manner. But they may not imagine or think of the impact that that exercise has over the whole country. Is there enough education that people have to know how to conserve water?
I would say we have not done very well on that front. For those of us who are interested in environment protection and conservation and resource use efficiency. And that's why you find that in many of our infrastructural development, even housing development, we don't factor in the aspect of water use efficiency.
Right.
We could easily, once you buy water and it is metered water, it's important to ensure that that payment is done once and then you can enjoy that payment in so many ways. And that can be possible if we design our houses and developments and industries in such a way that water can be recycled. Water can be treated and recycled and reused. And in addition, we could use devices and equipments that are very efficient in water use. Take, for example, at the household level in rural areas. We now have equipment that will treat water at point of use. You fetch it from the river, you run it through the equipment, and then you have clean, safe water to drink.
Almost immediately.
Immediately, without very heavy infrastructure. So we should think grand in terms of having very elaborate infrastructure for water production, processing, use, recycling. Okay? But at the same time, we also need to look at the bottom of the pyramid cluster of our population, where such infrastructure may not be reaching them. We can have lots of pipes, but if they are dry pipes, are we talking about? Yeah, they are not helping anyone. Yes.
And let's talk solutions, because I see time is up. Solutions in terms of what do we need to do, and what's the steps that need to be taken for us to at least have what we'd call reasonable access to water countrywide?
I see 4 areas of intervention, all of which is underlined by investment and empowering women to be investors in the water sector.
Why specifically women?
Because they're the ones who are most negatively impacted by scarcity of water at all. And there are so many negative impacts I can't enumerate now. But let us look at solutions, as you have said.
Right.
Number 1, we need to ensure that everyone is concerned about conservation of the environment. Because where does water come from? It comes from a landscape. It's the forest environment. It's the general space that we have. And we need to ensure that there is no waste in the landscape. We need to ensure that trees are planted. Land use in the water catchment areas is such that we don't have siltation of the rivers and lakes and so on. That is at the production level. The solutions at the infrastructure level would require that we look at strong public-private partnerships, because that is heavy investment. Now, at the consumption end, we need to bring in technology for recycling, for water treatment, at scale, whereby we segment consumers and ensure that every category of consumer is able to afford a particular technology to treat water, to recycle water, to have safe water.
Okay.
Yes.
And possibly also from the populace, what is it that they need to do? Because sometimes we have this mentality of looking at help coming from the government or from other. What is it that we can do at an individual level?
I think the responsibility of a clean and safe environment is every individual's responsibility according to the Constitution. And therefore, we all need to take proactive action to pay sensitivity to how we use these resources. Conceptually, we are bringing in the idea of green growth, green economy. And it is infusing in us the mentality that whatever you do in your own environment, you pay attention to how resources, natural resources are used, be they water, trees, firewood, and so on. So investment at every level by individuals, looking for technology, looking for knowledge. On the part of government, ensuring that the public is fully informed and sensitized about resource efficiency, natural resource management and conservation, and environmental protection. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alice Kaudia, for that information and joining us this morning
Thank
to
you
have
very much.
conversation on water and its accessibility. Alice Kaudia is an Environment Secretary for Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources. Now,